Oh, hello.
Hello, I'm Ben Price. I'm the Grants and Programs Manager for the Early Career Promoter Fund, and today we are meeting the industry professional. The Early Career Promoter Fund has been running for a few rounds now, and Carrick Moran from Events 471 is one of those to benefit. Hi, Carrick. How are you?
Hello. So yeah, I join you from Birkenhead today, which is very exciting. And yeah, here we
Great.
are.
Tell us a bit more about yourself and your kind of background as a promoter, and what is Events 471?
So Events 471 started through a few range of different things. So I started off like I feel many people in the industry do, not promoting. So I started off as a musician in originals bands, cover bands, playing small grassroots venues from like 90 to 300 capacity. Um, And then I also did a bit of sound engineering, bit of lights, bit of event management on the side, all like small grassroots stuff. But I kept on seeing recurring patterns throughout the industry that sort of made the framework for how I wanted to promote events in the future. So this was around fair pay, diversity, accessibility, and also music scenes where I was. So I'll go through them each one by one because there was little specificities about each single one of them. So around diversity, I kept on seeing the same type of bands and also the same demographic of people in bands. It was mostly your 20 to 25, um, white male, straight indie band. And that's great. We've got an amazing scene of that up here kind of thing. We've got some amazing bands really pushing forward, but I think it's a bit of a shame because we've got an amazing electronic scene, we've got an amazing punk and metal scene, we've got some amazing rappers as well. And it's a shame that all of these amazing creatives didn't get further than your like DIY grassroots. I mean, these are bands and artists that are phenomenal with their imagery, with their artistry, with their release strategy, but they weren't reaping the rewards of the effort they were putting in. Also, when I was doing sound, I was taught by an amazing sound engineer called Cheer Tomasa, who, I mean, I didn't really know anyone else but Cheer that was a female sound engineer or someone that was queer in sound. And it's a shame because we've got so many of them as well. Um, and production roles as well, so your event managers and whatnot. And then when it comes to fair pay, I mean, I think it's the cliche artist story of we're playing venues and you're only getting paid slivers of what you're generating in revenue for promoters or venues. So the idea was, well, how can we make a fair deal for artists? How can we pay them fairly? And also, what models work better at different levels? So, your different percentage deals or your fixed fees. And then it was about accessibility in the music scenes. So, accessibility, unfortunately, in Liverpool, all of our grassroots venues, especially in town, aren't physically accessible for disabled people. And also, they're like tight spaces. So, some people that are neurodiverse have issues accessing those spaces. So, that was one thing we wanted to do. We want to make sure that people that want to go to gigs that enjoy live music, are music fans, actually have the ability to go out no matter what the gig is, no matter what the space is. And then the last one was around music scene. So I'm from Birkenhead, and Liverpool's got this amazing music scene, but there's so many amazing artists in Wirral that don't get to play in Wirral because there's only a few venues, and some of them aren't teched out enough or rigged out enough to do professional gigs kind of things. So we wanted to work in good venues that are physically accessible, that allowed us to pay people fairly, and allowed to put a range of different shows on. Um, so we set up, did that, and we also wanted to give an artist a good deal. So if they didn't get the fee, they'd get a full professional range of photography, videography, and that was why Events 471 was set up. So since then, we've done 52 gigs, I think, by last week. 52 gigs in 18 months. We started in March 2023, and yeah, it's been a mad 18 months with starting with local grassroots artists doing a range of like punk, rap, hyper pop, um, indie, metal, and then we've started to grow slowly and steadily doing touring bands locally. So we did Nick Beggs and the Begg sisters, who are from down south, an amazing folk outfit. And through doing those touring shows, we've been able to grow into international and some larger things. So recently we've announced Sungazer, who are an American touring outfit with Adam Million, Sean Crowder, we've had Anna Canaz, Everything Yes. and hopefully we'll be able to announce a few more exciting things, bringing some artists that are from Merseyside but have grown substantially since then. So Didn't Say Peckish, who have grown massively since their first show. And then in a few weeks, we'll be able to announce a large artist from the 90s coming back to do an anniversary show. So yeah, that's a very brief summarized section of who we are.
Yeah, it's interesting you say, in the past you've promoted, say, up to 50 shows. Like we've funded people within this fund who've done as little as 2, 3, 4 shows in the past. So like a very early career promoter, whereas you clearly have learnt your trade over the course of the last few years. What drew you to the early career promoter fund then when you saw it announced? What made you think this is for me?
It was announced just as we started doing touring bands, and I mean, I think as a promoter, you go through different sections and different phases of your career. So, I mean, we started off doing lots of grassroots shows, and then we started growing steadily. But you face different walls at different parts of your development, I feel. So for us, it was how do you put the first gig on? So that was the first step. Then we started doing local grassroots stuff, and that was cycling along quite well. But the touring bands create different issues that you have to face. So how do you fund them? How do you get them over? How do you promote bands that aren't local? And then for us, it was, okay, we're getting into this good groove of things now, but we're then facing an issue putting on a different variety of shows. So we've done quite well doing the standard, like 3 artist bill, 2 artist bill. But then we wanted to think about more about creating an experience for the audiences that were coming to us. So when we saw the PRS fund, we were like, okay, we can start to experiment maybe if we got the fund and sort of push the boat out on something locally that we've not seen or we've not done ourselves. So having that to sort of bootstrap it and sort of give us rein in a weird way to develop different strands of us. So our marketing techniques, our way we advance shows, and also just booking a show that isn't your 3-band bill, booking an all-dayer.
So you're obviously one of the successful applicants to the grant.
Yeah, yeah.
So obviously, yeah, congratulations again for that. What was your approach to the application and the form, and obviously the budget? How did you kind of pick that up and figure out how to present an application that would eventually be successful?
Well, for us, I think it's quite nice the way that the fund was laid out. I like the fact it was on a rolling basis. So I didn't apply in the first round, I applied in the second, but that was because I knew that the funding wouldn't change and that I'd have the ability to write and develop it over time. So I really took my time to write it quite slowly. I mean, I did almost like 1 question a week or a few a day kind of thing, and it allowed me to sort of fine tune the application that I was writing, and also to think and reflect on the shows that I was doing in the meantime of when I started the application, when I finished it kind of thing. And also gave me a chance to think, okay, well, I think a lot of promoters think about just pushing their big shows as much as possible. But in my thing, I had the time to sort of talk to people about the fund I was writing and the questions. And these people that I talked to, especially like my tutors in college, my mum, my parents and whatnot, made me think a lot more and recontextualize what things I was doing like on a small grassroots level. So I sort of had the ability to take a step back and think, okay, what have I done? What's the big stuff? What's the small stuff? What's the stuff in between? What's relevant, I guess. And then when it comes to crafting a budget, that was a complicated one in a weird way, because essentially we looked at what do we do for your 3-band bill touring band basis, and then we scaled up slightly, and then also thought about, well, in the future we want to make our marketing better, so we're going to have to learn how to market ourselves. We're also going to have to budget to put into it, so sponsored ads, also messaging press people, and we sort of talked to people that we knew locally, other promoters that are larger, people that don't just promote music shows, so theatre people, and asking, well, what does it usually take to grow marketing and to get better at that, and also mentor yourself and learn more about the process. And they said, well, this is roughly the figure. And then we sort of tailed it up to Events 471.
So you clearly kind of read the guidance and understood the importance of the self-development side of the application. Of course, you're in a collective, but the application comes from an individual, and the self-development comes for an individual for those that are watching us. Just touching on that, guidance is so important, isn't it? You
Yeah,
really kind of
exactly.
find almost the answers to the questions if you spend on the guidance and learn about what funders are looking for.
I mean, yeah, that was the one thing that I thought a lot about because depending on which way you spin it, you can always think, well, do I fit exactly into this box? And then it's how to express what you've done to fit the labels. Because there was bits where I thought I've done too many shows, but there was also very much bits of okay, I definitely meet the criteria on personal development. So it's about making sure you understand where you fit in the grander scheme of the fund, and also making sure you know how to tick the boxes and also explain what you've done thoroughly enough. I mean, one thing that I had someone point out to me was that you've mentioned all your big shows and your touring bands, but you've not mentioned how you've mentored a lot of the smaller artists coming up through, and how you like create a talent pipeline so that they do the first show on like a small support, and then them grow themselves up. And I mean, it just takes someone to take a step back for you to realize, okay, I do hit this part, this part, this part, and this is how I explain it through the writing part.
Great. And tell us about the activities that we're helping to fund then. You've touched on what the business does. The events 471 and you and the members of your collective, but what are you actually doing with the cash?
So with the cash, we're aiming to create a more of an experience. So we're not just doing a standard three-band bill. We're creating an all-day feature in Birkenhead, where we're going to be platforming a range of artists that vaguely focus around their lyricism and songcraft. So your indie, your folk, um, maybe some rap. We're seeing. I mean, we're still in the booking phase, so a lot at the moment is quite broad, and hopefully we're going to narrow that down. But the range of the event is that kind of thing. So we're going to be booking a largish headliner, some smallish up and coming bands, and then we're going to be booking a range of local talent in between. So big local artists, and then a lot of small grassroots artists that we work with on our grassroots initiatives, and also the ones that we put on. The first put on a lot of our other bills. And this is a really quite a nice experience for us because I mean we've never had the ability to just book artists for a festival essentially kind of thing. So it's a bit of a strange one, and we've sort of gone into a completely different direction booking this, and it's opened my eyes to a lot of new things and a lot of new negotiations. And then with the rest of the money, we're hopefully putting it towards mentoring and marketing, because that's the one thing I think is limiting us at the moment, because being from strictly Birkenhead and being very Birkenhead centric, the demographic our shows are very Wirral based, but hopefully with the early career promoter fund, we're going to be able to reach out further into Liverpool, Manchester, Wrexham, and sort of grow the range of people that come to our shows.
Yeah. And it should be encouragement to anyone else who lives in, areas that maybe aren't on the main touring circuit or in the major cities of England. There are spaces across the UK, unbelievable grassroots music venues that simply don't get used enough. And it should be encouraging to everyone else, you would think, that we're sending some money to Birkenhead to help that scene, and people can see that it is for them, even if they're not based in one of the major cities.
Yeah, I do think that's something that's it's quite refreshing to see in a weird way. I mean, it's great that we've got our major music cities, but we've got amazing venues in so many different places. I mean, Liverpool's not even considered an A-list city, which I thought was crazy when I found that out. So to be working in Birkenhead, I don't know what place in the alphabet we'd be. Um, but I mean, it's nice to see the attention being spread across the world and well, the UK. Yeah, I mean, but it's nice to be seen in different places. I mean, isn't there someone that's been given funding like the edge of Manchester, like Salford kind of way,
Yeah, yeah.
for like a
There's,
mini
there's
blues festival, which is ace.
Yeah, there's one, I think Rochdale. I think that particular event is. There's an event in St Leonard's, down in the southeast, which is an area which traditionally does not see much live activity. So, we are determined with this fund to make sure that it is spread out across England, and yeah, to Birkenhead as well. So, just to finish, what would you say would be your top tip to anybody looking at this application form, considering the fund and not quite sure whether to go for it, or maybe they are going for it, and what would your top tip be?
I would take, because it's a rolling fund and there's no set deadline, take as much time as you want and need to really reflect. I mean, ask the people that are immediately around you, so your parents, tutors, friends, family, and think about what have you done in the past on all levels. So think about the entire range of your portfolio. Think about the experience you've got in not promoting shows. So something that I talked a lot about was me being a performer back in the day before I started promoting, and having that experience, although it doesn't seem completely relevant, definitely impacted the way that I wrote for the funding bid. So take your time, step back, and don't stress writing out to hit a deadline, because there will be another round after, kind of thing. And then I guess what I'd say is just be slow, think about it, write down, and then just redraft it. That's the one thing I would say. And then do this obviously while looking at what it's asking you for, cross-reference different things. So do you hit the criteria? What's the question specifically asking for? That's my main piece of advice.
Cool. You, Carrick. And as you say, there are rolling deadlines. We go up until February the 11th is the final deadline. So if anyone is thinking about applying, as Carrick says, take it, but do be mindful that the final deadline as things stand is February the 11th, 2025. Carrick, thank you. It's been a pleasure to hear about both you and the events you're putting on. We're really pleased to be funding your activities, and can't wait to see what comes from it. Thank you.
And that's amazing. Thank you very much.